What's up guys, it's Andrew Harrell here from Fairweather Farm, and today a really exciting development is we're going to try planting ginger. So we've never grown this crop on the farm before, and the reason for that mainly being is because I've never actually worked at a farm that grew ginger. Although I've started to see a lot of friends who are into farming and other farms around Quebec growing ginger. And the way it's done is in greenhouses because it needs a lot of heat. For germination, ideally you want at least 28 degrees Celsius. But during the growing season, you want it hot, like 30 degrees and even hotter than that. If you can get it at 40 degrees, I would do so. I've seen this growing in the tropics, and they actually put plastic roofing to magnify the sunlight and increase the heat. So even somewhere where it could be 35, 40 degrees, they want it even hotter than that. So the more heat you can give your ginger, the better. Hot and humid, because of it originating in conditions like that. So normally what you would do is you would plant it out in the greenhouse, and then you would do a mini tarp greenhouse of another greenhouse plastic over top of it. It also takes a very long time to grow. So from this point, this is the seed. And I think you can actually see here, if I get close enough, right here, hopefully that went into focus, at the tip of the garlic, the ginger, not the garlic. That's a growth point. So that's where one of the stems will come out, and there's gonna be many of them. It's just this one's already started. The more the merrier, and they'll shoot out from the tip where it starts right here, and it'll go up. So you can have multiple shoots of ginger per seed stock. This is a really nice big healthy one. And so it grows a green stem and then like one leaf basically. It could be about 2.5, 3 feet tall if it's not in the best conditions. If it's in really, really ideal conditions, it can be 5, 6 feet tall. Takes about 180 to 230 days to maturity. So from the day today, we're seeding them, which is, March 8th. Until the day we'll harvest them, it'll be 180 to 230 days, which is like something like 23 weeks. So we'll be getting these like in mid to end October. So pretty simple. We're not going to be planting them very deep because we don't want to give them too hard a time to come up, but we also don't want them exposed to sunlight after they've been planted. And we're going to have to keep them moist. So the only thing that I've done so far is I've filled this pot, which is not ideal, but this is what I've got. I didn't actually measure, but this looks like probably about like a 1 foot pot actually. Make it like a 4 gallon pot. I'm not 100% sure exactly, it's not written on it. We're gonna plant 4 here. Normally you would do a spacing of like 6 to 8 inches. Here, I'm getting about 6 inches from plant to plant. I would have liked to put more, but the seeds are really big. And the other thing is that like these pots are very, very deep. Ginger tends to grow more horizontally and not so much deep depth-wise. You do want to have like 6 foot to at least 6 inch, not 6 foot, 6 inch to about a foot of depth at least. But I think this is a little bit of overkill. So then what we're gonna do, I'm actually gonna just grab the GoPro so I can give you guys first person perspective here. What we're gonna do is, we've got our ginger all spaced out. So here, I'll just take this one to the side that I'm gonna plant, and I'll just dig a little hole. We don't want to go too deep, we can go about 2 to 4 inches depth. And I can find where that growth point was on it. Doesn't really matter, they're going to go up. Ideally you want to be facing the growth points up, so it's easier for it to grow. And bury it, and we'll just slide this one over. So it's really not actually going to take very long, the actual planting here. It's more the cupping of the soil. You hear the clicking in the background. That's the wood burning stove, because normally in the house for myself, I only keep it at about 18, 20 degrees depending. But for the ginger right now I've got it set to a minimum of 23 on the thermostat, and I'd like to have it be ideally at least, I'd say 23 to 24 degrees here. I know it's 28 ideally, but we're gonna make do with that because I can't afford to have the house be 28 degrees all the time unless I want it to be livable. So I'd leave with at around 23, 24 air temperature. Plus I've got these heat mats here on the floor. Those are set to 40, but even if the heat mat's at 40, the pots on top of it, the soil temp will not be 40. So yeah, this one's done, so that's good for the GoPro. Let me just show you the ginger here. I figured I'd just show you quickly what it looks like filling up the pots. Normally I'd have a plastic scooper, but I think I left it in the greenhouse and this is what I had on me. These we usually use as a display for like kale and certain fine herbs at the farmer's market. Just put a little bit of water in there and that keeps them fresh throughout the day. So I do a decent layer of soil in the pot, and then come here, water a little bit, and mix it in. So when I'm mixing, I'm feeling for the saturation of the soil. This is something you get used to over time and practice. Knowing what the good moisture is for the soil, but there I can already tell that it's good. And then I can add some more fresh potting mix. This is OM1 by Berger. This is good for organic certified production. And it's, I have to check the ingredients on it, but from what I can see, it's peat moss, black earth, and some perlite. I'm not sure what portions. I'd have to look at the bag. I'm not going to do right now. So I'm just filling up to the line of the inside of the pot, the inner line. Every time I've added a certain amount of soil, I'll just give another little spritz of water, making sure that I don't have dry spots. And I've done a few of these at this point, so I'm pretty used to how much soil I should put and when I should put how much water. Just kind of just rinse and repeat at this point. I counted, and from 30 pounds of ginger, that gave me 115 pieces. They're not all the same size. And as I was manipulating them, some of them cracked actually a little bit. And originally I was going to put 4 per pot, as I said earlier in the video, but I've decided that I need to put at least 6 per pot because I've only got 20 pots, so putting it quite a lot tighter than I had originally planned, but this is what I have to do because this is the current conditions. And then we'll see in a month or two, we let them finish out in the pots or we plant them out in the greenhouse. So I actually put a little bit too much soil there. It'll be alright, I'll just have to dig them in deeper. The idea about not filling it up all the way is that first of all, more of the watering is going to be done over top of the ginger because the actual seeds need to be rinsed over so that they can get the idea. Okay, it's dark, it's warm, it's moist. Let's germinate. So you're going to go over here, grab some seeds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I usually try to have like different size and kind of take like all the small ones. This one's a little bit wrinkled out, and there's a part of it that I'm worried might rot off. So I'm gonna just toss that to the side. I'm not gonna take a chance, and I'll save the rest of it, which I believe is still good. Put the biggest one in the middle, Normally I wouldn't have to go so deep. I normally only put it like an inch deep and then I'd add a few inches on top, but here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so I evenly spread them out. You're gonna have to go a little deeper. The way I normally do it, which is like a little bit more work. Why it's better not to fill the pot completely. Put them like an inch in and then add more on top. Because here, they're already about 2 inches deep. I'm gonna add an inch or so. If you only put them an inch deep and you add about 2 inches of soil, I feel like it's just like a little bit better this way. It's less work and it's better for the seeds. So it's kind of like as you go along, you figure out these little tricks. That's as full as it gets. Hopefully I don't overfill the water. I go down a little bit. I gotta water it down at least one more time. And the nice thing about the ginger is that, like, because of the size of the seeds, you can still actually manipulate the soil without worrying about moving the seeds underneath. It's not like regular seeds, you'd be completely messing up your spacing right now, but the ginger is not moving underneath this. And I'll give one more watering. Another little trick that you can do to keep the moisture and reduce the amount of waterings that you have to do, because the thing is, like, it's tricky. It can't be wet for too long because it'll mold, but it likes to be warm and moist. So what you can do is you just cover the top of the pot with a plastic saran wrap of some kind, but not tight. You have to leave some room for some air to get through. It'll also make it a little warmer, so that'll help with the germination. Here, check if there's any water in the tray underneath. Nope, so that's good. I'll put it to the side with the other ones on the heat mats, and as I'm going, I'm just kind of replacing the heat mats so that they're covering as much surface area as possible. In worst case, I mean, they're on, so it should technically make a difference, but worst case it will at least insulate the whole floor a little bit from the bottom, from the basement, because the basement is not heated. That's one pot of ginger, and then this takes about 2 weeks to germinate. We're going to be doing turmeric as well. The turmeric takes a little bit longer to germinate than the ginger, but the conditions and the growth specs are pretty much the same. I'll still do a little video about turmeric, because why not? And yeah, that's basically all we have to do. Now we have to water it down, and the other thing is that, like, because I've got it in the house, it's really important that I've got this little catch tray so that the water from the pot that I water will go down into this, and then daily I'll just check this and I'll basically just pour it back on the top. But this keeps having water on the floors because I don't want to have too much humidity in the house. I've grown plants in the house before and it can be a problem. I'm going to run a fan as well, and I'm going to do my best to keep the wood stove running, so that'll help reduce humidity and create some extra heat. And that's about it. I'll keep you posted as soon as I get emergence from these guys. We'll see how it goes. The other thing that's like a little disclaimer is that, like, you can grow ginger indoors, just like in your house in pots like this. That's no problem. Year round, because you could do it in the winter too, as long as you can afford to pay for the heating. But we actually have a greenhouse here on the farm, so what we're doing is we're going to be taking these pots of ginger and we're going to lay them across the edges of the greenhouse so that we can be growing in areas of the greenhouse that are not productive. Normally last year we just had cucumbers and tomatoes, so all along the edge we weren't growing anything except weeds. So this will help to keep the weeds down, and it'll make use of the heating that we're paying anyways for our seedlings and our production crops in the greenhouse. I'm not 100% sure if it's going to be necessarily the same this year because of the rotation. And yeah, it's also quite a highly productive crop. I was reading up on it, and I think that on, I believe, a 60-foot bed, you could get something like 150 kilos, which at $40 a kilo, you can sell about $40 to $50 a kilo, the ginger. And if you sell it at $40 to $50 a kilo organic, that means that you could be making several $1,000s on a 50-foot bed in the greenhouse. This is not a bed, it's just gonna be a series of pots. But I think it could be a significant revenue for the farm. We bought just regular certified organic ginger from Bercy's, which is a wholesale grocer. Oh, here's another grow point I can show you if it ever didn't come out before. And I believe 30 pounds cost about $60 or something like that, so the seed is not very expensive. So if this works out, this could prove to be a very, very profitable crop. So now the last thing that we've got to do is, of course, water it down. And I've already watered as I've put the dry potting soil throughout, so underneath it's wet. It's really just the actual ginger itself and the final top layer of soil that we added that I'm irrigating right now. I may add just a tiny little bit more of soil just because there was actually some very, very large seeds in this pot. We don't want them to be uncovered, and we also just want them to have as much room to grow as possible. So the reason I don't water and just dump and overflow is because I want it to seep down in as it goes. And I want it to be well moist, but I don't want to drown it. I do want to have a bit of air in there as well. And from what I understand for ginger, we're gonna test it out and see what works, but ideally, as soon as it germinates, you want to be watering heavily and then letting it dry out. So ideally maybe watering once a week, maybe twice a week. You have to check every day, put your finger in and see if the moisture stops at what depth. But you want to just make sure that it never completely dries out, especially during the germination, because if it dries out during the germination, it'll die. But you don't want to have it completely saturated as well, because if it's too soaked, it can mold and it doesn't have air to breathe. So I may think of a few other things to add at some point to the ginger video, but for now, for the actual planting, that's